Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turan here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. So this commentary is the Grim and the Grave DLC. So actually, both my opponent and I are using some units from the new patch. So you can see I have my army led by VOLKMAR the Grim. So really excited to try him out again. I've been playing with him a lot, and he's actually one of my new favorite leaders for the Empire. I love the fact that he can bring all those warrior priest buffs to the entire infantry line, which is I think is very valuable if you have a great swordsman type, front line. So definitely very fun. So as far as my army composition goes, and also it should be noted, I'm playing against a very ethereal heavy vampire counts player. So thankfully VOLKMAR does do magic damage, so that was a huge relief for me. So I have a front line of spearmen, anti-large, charge defense against large foes. Again, you don't need shields against the vampire counts. So a very, very good investment at 300 resources. I have great swords. These guys are the backbone of my army. They're essentially going to deal with, Grave Guard and those type of guys. So, and Flagellants, I brought these guys. I actually really like them in the vampire counts matchup. I feel like you can, put them onto a lot of low armor units, and for how much you're paying for them, they can do a lot of damage, and they never break. So, if you get them and then also put Volkmar on his elite mounted unit, the most expensive one, he's also unbreakable. So it's pretty interesting. A lot of fun builds you can do with that. And then Lore of Fire, guys. Lore of Fire, in my opinion, is the best lore of magic that you can bring against vampire counts. So if I use the Flaming Sword of Ruin on, let's say a group of great swords, it's going to give them magic damage, and then it also gives them fire damage. So a lot of vampire counts units, I don't know if him, for example, any of them that have the regeneration effect will take an additional 20% from fire damage, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's like a 20% sensitivity or something of that nature. So it's just so good against vampire counts, and it also makes it so your great swords and other infantry can deal with ethereal units. So very, very cool there. So I have an Empire Captain in Volkmar, and Volkmar, again, is just an absolute monster. He has Divine Power, so he gives 20% miscast chance to affected enemies in range. He also has Regeneration himself, so in really long attritious battles, if he takes like a huge burst or it gazes him the gash early on, if you're a little more conservative with him, you can keep him alive, and he can regenerate. So it's very, very cool. He also can give damage resistance to your team. He can give Grand Hammer of Sigmar to give attack. It's just an awesome character all around, and definitely fun. And Grand Soulfire too isn't bad against ethereal units, so definitely cool. I did bring Demogryph Knights with halberds, and then I also brought the Silver Bullets handgunners. So they do magic damage, if I'm not mistaken, which is great. And then I also brought, I brought one more group of infantry. They're around here somewhere. Oh, they're in the tree line. I brought Sterling's Revenge, the Free Company Militia. So these guys have stock, and these guys have stock as well. So my whole plan was to get them up on the hill here and just shoot down at my opponent in the valley, because they have stock. So it's definitely, not bad. It's a lot of fun tacticianship you can do with these guys, and they kind of play like Night Goblins. So anyways, quick rundown of my opponent's army. He has Scriptors, which are good against Empire, armor piercing against greatswords, etc., etc. Front line of Graveguard, absorb missile fire, and he has a Master Necromancer who looks like he brought almost all of the Lore of Death. So he is going to provide the regeneration to his troops and a multitude of other stats. So definitely not bad. Then you have two groups of Hexrays, so that's a huge investment, huge. And I don't know, it's a little bit risky. I mean, it can pay off if your opponent doesn't bring magic, but with Volkmar and all these new renowned units doing magic damage, it's a risky investment, guys. Then he has Vargas here, which are pretty good at diving on Empire missile units. And, of course, three groups of Cairn Wraiths. So very, very heavy investment on the ethereal army. So very spooky, guys, very spooky. So without further ado, let's get started. So I immediately get my Silver Bullets and then my Free Militia up the hill. But my opponent, he also had the same idea, which I was really hoping he would just kind of march straight on into me. But, again, I guess that was a foolish assumption. So I get my troops up here, but I quickly see that he's coming up here. So I path my entire army up to the hill, and you can see I'm trying to get up there, but I do have my units moving as a group, so my faster units are going to pace with my slower units, which is good and bad, I suppose, in this situation. And he's just coming straight at me with these Hex Rays. So I was panicking a little bit, trying to get my Demogryph Knights in position. And I was also trying to get my Bright Wizard up so that he could imbue them with some magic damage so they can actually deal with these Hex Rays. Because right now, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot with that ethereal damage resistance. So I'm pulling them back. And unfortunately for me, he's about to discover these units, which was definitely very, very stressful. And you can see I'm just like desperately pathing up the hill, and now my hit units are revealed. He smells the blood in the water. But thankfully, the Free Company Militia, they have 38 melee attack, 28 weapon strength, and are pretty good melee combatants. So I engage with the Demogryph Knights. I was a little late on that, and he just runs the other group around to target these guys. So in this really bad situation, you just separate them. So you send one group over here, one group here, which I believe is what I do. And that forces him to just, deal with one. So he does get a nice charge there, and that was definitely bad. He lands the Vargeist, but I do use the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So you can see the magic damage on these Hex Wraiths. They're starting to just get cut down. And they do have the anti-monstrous, so they have double bonuses against both of these unit groups. But regardless, that battle was pretty much lost, so I just had to do as much damage as I could. And over here, the Free Company Militia, keep in mind, guys, they're pretty sturdy, like I was telling you. And then also, the Silver Bullets over here with their magic damage are shooting into these Hex Wraiths and just absolutely demolishing them. So that actually worked out well for me at the end of the day. So in the front line, Volkmar here and, all the other troops are engaged. I got the Empire Captain to tie up those Crypt Horrors. And over here, I sent some Spearmen as well as Volkmar down here because I saw he was so heavily focused on the Cairn Wraiths. This is Volkmar's home. Like he was born to slay these kind of creatures, and he's going to do magic damage to them and just absolutely demolish them. And also his bombardment, once they're all rounded up, will be quite strong. So I do use the the Cascading Fire Cloak on my main line, giving these Greatswords armor piercing and melee defense. So these Graveguard are going to get cut through. And over here, I brought the Flagellants around, and they're good for flanking. They're very fast, guys. They have, 37 run speed, so I pulled them through the seam and got a nice rear charge. And Crypt Horrors are not armored, so these Flagellants are going to do great damage to them, so that's definitely a good engagement. So over here, the Silver Bullets and the Sterling's Revenge, those renowned units, they actually won that fight. So that was awesome. The magic damage from the Silver Bullets and peeling them off into the jungle like that was great. And now these guys are ready to get back into action. They're still in decent health, and the Silver Bullets are also coming back too. So things are going pretty well, and I was able to get a pretty good surround with the Flagellants, and things aren't going badly. And Volkmar, this was also a huge issue I was concerned about, but down here, him alone with that magic damage he does and the flame damage, he was able to just get in and destroy these Cairn Wraiths. And you guys can see, I'm sorry I didn't get to show you, but he did use a bombard ability and was able to just decimate all three of these groups. So definitely going well, and just a single group of Spearmen and him dealt with a ton of resources. So continuing to cast the Cascading Fire Cloak, and my opponent retaliates with Curse of Years, so kind of canceling each other's buffs out to an extent. But he invested so much in those ethereal units, and you guys saw that the Silver Bullets and my other units up there were actually able to deal with them. But the one big loss I did take was those Demogryph Knights. They got absolutely demolished. So he still has a pretty healthy line of Graveguard back here. He has some Vargeist, but again, the angry Sons of Sigmar and all these troops here are coming in to deliver the final blow, and these guys are just really cool. And I mean, they're not going to do super good against Graveguard, but regardless, they won't break. They'll be until the bitter end, guys. So I feel like in a lot of matchups, it's going to be good to mix in a few of those groups because they kind of fill a similar role to Savage Orcs in that the low armored, high damage against unarmored units, but they also don't break, which is really nice. So you can see my melee core just absolutely beasted it over there. And over here, Volkmar was able to deal with the ethereal units, so definitely a lot of fun with those new units. But again, a big part of it was the Silver Bullets over there dealing with those ethereal units because these things are 1,500 apiece, and just having them get absolutely demolished by these handgunners over here was definitely a bad trade for my opponent. So Bright Wizard did well. Volkmar just got 70 kills, and almost all of those were against Cairn Wraiths and maybe a few other units, so good value there. It was just a lot of fun experimenting with the new units, and I really like the stock ability. I definitely failed there, and my opponent outplayed me in that regard. But it's fun. I can see doing a lot of interesting tactics with those and using the stock, and it's something people won't expect from the Empire. So very cool there. So again, good game to my opponent, 666. I really appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support, and more content coming soon, guys. Stay tuned.